Good morning, comrades. This is Wake Up Wednesday with Hunter.
And I'm Dani.
And if you're not awake yet, you're gonna be.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah, pretty solid. Your story first today.
Okay, so I had braids in, but then they looked weird.
Quitter.
I mean, I re-braided my hair multiple times today for this reason. So 1923 actor, which is the prequel to Yellowstone, for those who do not know, Cole Briggs Plenty was found dead in Kansas at the age of 27. This was following him being missing, and his uncle Mo, who is also an actor on Yellowstone, asking for help. And so the day after he went missing, his significant other, I believe, reported him for domestic violence. When they found his body, however, his hair was cut off. He is an indigenous actor. That's an important part to the hair conversation. And was found in a similar situation like his sister was 6 months prior, who was also murdered. Was murdered. We don't know if he was murdered. So I am just... the assumption is there, though. There's no official cause of death as of us recording on Monday, April 8th.
Yes, so we're still waiting for a bit more information, and we will certainly provide an update to this story when more information is available.
I will say, like, his uncle is, like, really, like... You would recognize his uncle. He's been in a lot of films, and I like Yellowstone. It is
What's
a weird...
his uncle's name?
Mo. Mo Brings Plenty.
Yeah, I think he looks familiar. It's a tragedy what happened to his family.
Yeah. Two people in 6 months that they lost.
2 people in 6 months. It's it really makes you question what is going on over there. Would you like to briefly explain the importance of his hair being cut?
Yes, so traditionally, indigenous people do not cut their hair, and there are certain times they can, usually in the passing of someone. Each tribe is also different, so like it depends. But for his hair to be cut off, historically as well with the United States, it is... I would consider it a hate crime personally, but I'm not the U.S. government. But historically speaking, this is what Americans used to do to assimilate indigenous people. They would strip their indigenous names and make them cut their hair short and make them as white as possible.
I can definitely see making that a hate crime for a culture that treasures their long hair for cultural and spiritual reasons. Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense to me, and I would support that. Our hearts go out to the family and the loved ones. And I'm sure that everyone who's directly impacted by that is going to miss this man dearly.
Yeah. His sister was technically classified as a MMIW, which is a missing and murdered indigenous woman. It happens so often that we have an acronym for it. This is something indigenous people do talk a lot about. I think that's another thing to highlight in this story. Sorry for the very somber beginning story, guys. Not the best way to start your Wednesday.
No, but it's an important story nonetheless. So today in Space News, TM, on Monday, April 8th, there was a total solar eclipse that was visible across North America in a big old arc stretching from Mexico into Maine and parts of Canada. Many places along the U.S. Were able to witness total or partial solar eclipses that lasted for several minutes. I know I was outside today with my special glasses looking at it with all of my students.
Yes, I looked with my special glasses. And I think what's really interesting for me personally is that both Austin and the place I lived in New York for like 2 minutes were both in that total eclipse area, and I was not living in either one of them.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is
that's kind of cool.
crazy.
Our producer was talking about wanting to go to Niagara Falls today, and that would have been really sick to be there.
Yeah, but we made him have better plans in July.
Whoop whoop.
I think this is really interesting. I like the solar eclipse. I was like over here like, this is so cool. I was nerding out.
Yeah, it's gonna be 20 years before we get another one.
Or we could just go to Iceland in August 12th of 2026 when the next solar eclipse happens.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if Iceland is ready for whatever is left.
Whatever is left, Iceland edition. TM.
TM. We're trademarking everything out here.
Yeah. You know what? I think in moon and space news, I'm surprised you're not talking about moon time.
Please describe to us in detail what moon time is
I don't,
and the importance of moon time.
Okay, so the U.S. government, in all its infinite wisdom.
All right, some propaganda right there.
That's a joke. Looked at NASA and was like, make moon time. And by that, they mean make a time
Make the moon great again.
Make time zones for the moon because the moon does move at a different speed than the Earth. So we need to figure out timing because if we ever colonize the moon, God, that's the grossest sentence I've ever said on this podcast.
No, there are grosser sentences that we've said on this podcast and grosser sentences to come. I assure you.
And it's just these gross sentences are the worst. So the United States wants to be prepared for colonizing the moon.
Humans are going back to the moon supposedly in 2026.
Supposedly. But remember, last time we tried to send a rocket there, they didn't that was your story.
Yeah. That's what happens when you let the, private market try and dictate, travel into space. But that's, neither here nor
innovation.
There. Yeah, anyway.
So many chicken sandwiches. That's my favorite go-to.
So someone on the moon with a terrestrial-based clock would lose 58.7 microseconds each Earth day. So because of this infinitesimally small amount of time,
such a small time,
the moon needs its own time zone.
Why? I don't think it needs a time. It's not even time. I think it's time zones. They really think it's
time zone.
One zone? One zone for the whole moon.
Yep, moon time.
One moon time.
Moon time.
Not moon times?
All the eternal moon time.
There are states that have 2 or 3 different two or three different time zones, and we're gonna have one time zone for the moon.
Yep.
We have states that are like 10 times smaller than the moon that have 2 or more. Tennessee has 2. Florida has 2. Texas is all Central Time.
Moon time. All right.
Time. That's the moon time. Oh, I guess this is a fun story.
Is it?
It's a jokey story. It's like a ha-ha story.
Funny ha-ha.
Funny ha-ha, not sad ha-ha.
Okay. Let's hear it.
So there is a Democratic congressman who unveiled a bill to rename a federal prison after Make America Great Again President Donald Trump.
After 92 criminal charges, Donald Trump.
He gets so I think the 90 plus is when you get your own prison named after you. He got that achievement unlocked.
You hear that, criminal? Something to aspire to.
And it has to be it has to be all at once, okay? Like you have to unlock this achievement.
Yeah, you can't spread them out over decades.
No.
You gotta do them all in like a short 4-year period.
You gotta speed run your way through.
Speed run the crimes. Like you're in GTA.
There's trophy hunters out there that might want this.
So who's this congressman?
Representative Gary Connolly.
Connolly?
Gary
Connolly.
He just feels looks like It is Connolly. I don't know what
Gary
is.
Cannoli.
I think it's actually Jerry. Because it's an E. It's
Jerry Cannoli.
Jerry Cannoli.
Connolly.
Right. Of Virginia. So our friend to the south. And Jared Moskowitz of Florida. And John. I'm really trying.
Garamendi?
Yeah, I was really trying not to say the chocolate. I'm not even hungry. I don't know why food's the one.
John Ghirardelli. With his friend Jerry Cannoli. Get food in the brain.
Dude, I'm not even hungry.
Apologies to these representatives whose names we are butchering over here.
No, me. It's all me. Don't blame Hunter.
You're right, it's not my fault.
His English as a first language brain is there.
True. It's a privilege.
But he's of California. Yeah.
So why are they renaming this after Donald Trump? Like, I'm pretty sure I know why, but like, what's their reasoning?
Because Republicans tried to rename something else, and they were like, I have a more fitting option. They wanted to replace Washington Dulles International Airport after Donald Trump, but he was like, I think it's more fitting to rename this federal prison. And that is the level of pettiness I aspire to be.
It's pretty petty. I'm here for it, though. That's hilarious.
I love it. And they hope their Republican friends will join them in bestowing him the honor he truly deserves, which, chef's kiss.
The honor,
Mr. Cannoli.
The honor he deserves is jail. All right, so my second story of the night is there was a fire at Grandpa's place. All right, so Shant Saghomonian. Now I'm butchering names, but this guy deserves to get his name butchered. Age 35 was arrested on Sunday on charges alleging that he used fire to damage the building that houses Bernie Sanders' only congressional office in his home state of Vermont. Faces a penalty of 5 to 20 years in prison and a maximum fine of $250,000 if convicted.
Okay, question.
Answer?
What was his charges, like, specifically? Or do you not know? It's fine if you don't.
So I have the article pulled up here.
Because I'm just curious, did he get destruction of public property? Or, like, because, like, isn't his congressional home...
it's his office.
Or office, sorry.
Yeah.
You said there was I heard Grandpa's place, and I was like, oh no, his house.
No, not his house, not one of his houses, homes, but his office.
So then, yeah, definitely destruction of public property.
Yeah, it doesn't say specifically in the article, but it's pretty obvious.
Okay. Nice.
The article says it's unclear whether or not he entered into a plea, but
it's America. Of course, he entered into a plea.
Yeah, just some dude with a beanie and a tracksuit. Looks like, I don't know.
He looks exactly what you guys are thinking of when you think of a guy in a tracksuit and a beanie.
Danny's going to put his picture on the screen for you guys.
It was actually Reeboks. That makes it even.
Looks like Nike.
Oh, I meant Adidas's. Actually, not Reeboks, but like it doesn't matter.
But yeah, this dude just sort of walked up to the building, and he was spraying a liquid near the outer door before lighting the area with a handheld lighter. Yeah, he just goes up with some gasoline or something and just, torches the place.
Just some lighter fluid that you can
There were people in the building. There were staff people in the office at the time. I don't have a number on how many there were, but they were all safe.
Okay, well, yeah.
No one got harmed in the incident.
Surprised they didn't go for attempted murder.
You easily could. You
really could.
Grandpa is quoted to have said in response that he is deeply grateful to the swift, professional, coordinated efforts of local, state, and federal law enforcement in response to the fire at my Vermont office on Friday. He said, I am also thankful that none of the many people who were in the office building at the time of the fire were injured. I appreciate the outpouring of support and well wishes from me and my staff. We are proud to be able to continue to serve Vermonters during these challenging times. So I'm glad that everyone's okay, and that hope this guy gets in trouble for trying to torch up Grandpa's office. Yeah. What? Got any thoughts about that?
Did he ever say why? Like, this is just a weird story.
I don't know this guy's side of the story.
Well, sometimes he tell you.
I can barely say his name.
I mean, fair.
I feel like your names were way easier to read than this guy's name.
They definitely were, but I got food on the brain, apparently. Not love, food.
Yeah, so that's my second story.
It was an interesting one.
Yeah.
Not a silly one, but an interesting one.
No, not silly. Gotta keep Grandpa safe. What?
No, I was gonna make a bad joke. But so my last story. In a shocking turn of events.
Okay.
RFK Jr.'s campaign sent out an email supporting January 6ers.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so he is claiming that it was a rogue, like it was a company that he was working with, that it was never meant to get sent out, that it shouldn't have happened. Like, so they fired the groups like that did this, basically pushing the blame, which I do not believe, on everyone but themselves. I'll go into why I don't think that's true. But the email basically, it was sent out last Thursday. The email sent were to his supporters, and it said that WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is Assange. I did it again. Assange is a political prisoner and suggests that he and January 6 rioters are victims of an outrageous miscarriage of justice.
Right.
Yeah. And they also went into like how the U.S. wants to extradite Julian. And both hard right Marjorie Taylor Greene. God, why is she coming up so much lately? And hard left.
Ilhan Omar.
Yeah. Yes. Agree. We must free him now. And the email read.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So like, apparently the Brits don't want to make sure our government doesn't kill him. This is the reality that every American citizen faces, from Ed Snowden to Julian Assange to the J6 activist. The fact that they call them activists, sitting in a Washington D.C. jail cell, stripped of their rights. Like that's crazy to me. This is so.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into with this story. So,
liberties, not rights.
I am very pro Julian Assange.
Yes.
WikiLeaks, very important stuff. It's important for us to know all the crazy shit that our government's up to. Right? I think we can all agree on that there is a level of transparency that we're looking for that we don't have actively in our government. And because there was that void to fill, it was filled. As far as the rest of that goes,
it's
January 6ers being called activists, I feel like
that were stripped of their constitutional liberties.
I feel like you cross a line, like a threshold, from being an activist or even a protester into being a rioter, into being a domestic terrorist. when you storm the nation's capital and go through people's mail and threaten people and
I hate to say it. I'm going to, but I hate it.
all right. All right.
One person's activist is another person's revolutionary.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We are very pro-revolution on whatever is left. But
Yes.
you have
So-
to be doing it for the right reasons.
It's not a moment, it's a movement.
It's a good quote.
It's a great quote.
Who said it?
Uh,
Who said it?
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Lin-Manuel Miranda. All
And
right.
his
The icon.
his critically acclaimed musical Hamilton.
Never heard of it. All right, moving on. No, in all seriousness, though, yeah, where the January Sixers went wrong is that they were being spoon-fed propaganda
Yeah.
and just outright lies,
Yes.
right? Like, they thought that they were, saving America by preventing, this great injustice and this election fraud from, overturning who they thought rightfully won the election, but it was just made up. It was a lie the whole time.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go into why I don't think that the statement of it was inserted by a new marketing contractor and slipped through normal approval process. I don't believe that. I do believe he terminated his contract with this vendor because he needed to. But as someone who sees the other side of things now, the person who writes that email is not the one who schedules or sends it out. At bare minimum, you are having two people see that email. The person who wrote it and the person who has to put it in. At bare minimum. And this campaign, a campaign of this size has at least like a multi-step process. I do not see this happening by accident. They are hoping that the general public is going to believe this because they don't understand how things work like this. Because yeah, like you're just like, okay, cool. Someone wrote an email and sent it out. Like they didn't get approval from their boss. No, there's like layers on layers on campaigns like this and email marketing like this. And that had to be scheduled out. Like you don't send the email right away. Like that gets scheduled out at least a few hours beforehand.
I think it's interesting, this song and dance that RFK Jr. is trying to do to court both sides of the aisle. Trying to appeal to January Sixers and conservatives who support January Sixers is such an interesting tactic, I guess. Because before the show started, we were just talking about how it was seeming more and more like RFK Jr. was like a plant just to make sure that Biden didn't win, because one of his campaign officials in New York State said that their primary goal was to just make sure that Biden didn't win his re-election campaign.
I think plant is too nice of a statement for him. He's just a Nepo baby who's trying to Nepo baby his way through life.
Interesting.
At least a plant has to do some work. A Nepo baby doesn't really have to do anything.
Says the one who thinks he's going to coast into the presidency.
Oh, 100%. I'm not
Kennedy last name.
I stand by that. I think like that reaffirms my statement. He's a Nepo baby who's going to win because he's going to Lincoln his way through this.
Do you think that... I know we talked last week about his vice presidential running mate,
Yes.
and how she has some pretty liberal views on things, and we are now talking about how he's trying to court conservatives. I know he courted a couple of big name conservatives to possibly be his VP also, which is really interesting. Do you think that this effort is going to bring him more supporters from the right?
I think because he backtracked so quickly. I think if he had let it stew a little bit longer and then be like, "Oh no, like I'm being canceled by the lab," like he could have leaned into this and made it seem like he didn't want to like say that it wasn't a real thing. I think if he played his cards right, he could have courted a lot of people. I don't think he played them. I think he showed his hand too quickly, is what I'm gonna say.
We'll see what happens.
What's the two metaphors about card playing? What is with me today?
It's interesting to see how he's running this campaign. It's interesting to see the kind of lane that he's trying to find for himself.
He's trying to be a centrist in a situation where centrism isn't going to win him.
If it's not working for Joe Biden, it's not going to work for you, pal.
Yeah. I think the only reason he'd win is pulling votes from Biden and Trump, not because of the never Trumpers and because of the never Bideners. Bideners? They're going to be like, this guy.
Bidenistas.
Bidenistas, yeah. They're going to be like, this guy. This guy right here. He's
those people who are riding with Biden. I hate that. Moving on.
I'll cut that part out, I promise.
A probe found that China interfered with the last two Canadian elections. China has not made any comments about this. The probe found that the People's Republic of China boosted liberal parties that were pro-China or neutral towards them. This is a probe that Canada's, like, the equivalent of their State Department, basically, ran on their own elections and stuff like that.
Was there something that triggers this? Or was it just a regular probe that they did?
Right.
Sorry, I'm asking way too specific questions today.
No, that's a very fair question. So, so Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party won both elections. Under pressure from opposition leaders unhappy about media reports on China's possible role, Trudeau set up a commission into foreign interference. So I guess there was some media speculation that this happened. I'm not sure where that came from and how it sort of materialized. But the internal probe showed that there was a level of interference. Now, this isn't China going out to actively sabotage conservatives in the country that have very anti-China stances. They're just boosting up the ones that are less
Anti-China.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what I find interesting?
What?
Trudeau is to Canada as Biden is to America in the sense that when you see someone say fuck Trudeau, you're like, are you saying fuck Trudeau because you're one of us, or are you saying fuck Trudeau because you're one of the phobics?
It's interesting because he's also a Nepo baby. Like, his father was a prime minister before him.
Oh, I did not know that.
Years and years back, yeah.
I don't pay attention to Canada like that.
Maybe we should. They're our hat, after all. That's right, Canada. We wear you.
I don't like that.
It got a little weird there. All right.
A little.
It got a little weird. But, yeah, like, my favorite part about this story is everyone's like, those dang Chinese interfering with elections, as if we don't interfere with every single election that happens across the planet. Like that's our whole MO.
Like, we're not sending out assassins all the time. But
at least China's not coupping their government and putting in a puppet government. That would be absolutely crazy and unhinged. And America, we would never do that.
No, we wouldn't try and set up a puppet government and then lose control and now have an enemy.
Check out our episode on Haiti. Shameless plug.
So shameless. So plugged. It came out on Monday.
Yes. Give it a listen. Give it a watch.
It was a good episode, if I say so myself.
And this is also a good episode. So
this is an episode.
that is my story about Canada and China. Let's get into some of these updates.
Woo! Updates. Oh. I don't like either of our updates. Neither of these are happy updates.
No, they're not happy updates.
Just like I knew one of them wasn't a happy update, but then I read the other one. I was like, there's no. This is sorry.
Mine's worse, so I'll start off.
You're.
So it'll end on a worse note if I go last. So on Monday, April 2nd, Israel killed 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers in an airstrike in Gaza, leaving the total of 8 workers dead since this conflict began at over 200.
And now they are pulling out of Gaza.
Yes, and this specific incident where these aid workers were killed has gotten a lot of extra negative attention and sparked more and more countries to call Israel out on their bullshit.
Yeah, because like not only they bombed one of the cars, there were survivors out of the first one. They went into another car, and Israel went out of their way to bomb that second vehicle to make sure that there was no survivors.
Double tap.
Which also proves that if they wanted to, they could have done strategic minimized damage, which we knew already, but it's just like, now it's just blatantly obvious.
And it makes me wonder if these were hand-chosen targets or whether this was done by AI, since we found out that Israel's using AI to assist in their genocide in Gaza.
I don't know.
AI to choose their bombing targets.
I don't.
This is the worst timeline.
We are in the worst timeline. Why are we? Okay. I don't know what I would prefer. AI choosing who to murder humans?
Humans can be held accountable.
Humans can. Well, I mean.
Humans can be held accountable. Whether they are or not, that's to be determined. Probably 40 years down the line when they move to Argentina. But this is where we live.
And in some more sad news, the containers aboard the ship Dali that crashed into the Key Bridge that we talked about last week. Yes, last week. Are being removed from the ship in an effort to speed up the cleanup of the waterway and reopen the port. And just a quick reminder, the workers are still on that boat. They cannot leave that boat. And they're not even allowed to have they have limited technology use as well while they're on it. Just side note to that. But the bodies of 3 of the 6 workers have been recovered, with the rest being presumed dead.
Yeah. There was very little, belief that the workers that were working on the bridge at the time had survived the bridge collapse. It was improbable, of a thought to begin with. But only 3 of their bodies have been recovered so far. The rest are still missing.
You know what I'm upset the most about? How long that they spent looking for those billionaires who were stupid and decided to go on a build your own adventure submarine trip, but they spent very few hours looking for 6 workers. I understand that they presumed it were dead. We presumed that the submarine imploded and that they were dead, but we still kept looking for proof. I think that and how many agencies went to help for that? I'm upset because the stark difference in response is amazing. It's just, I don't know. And I feel and yes, I'll be the first time. Yeah, I was making jokes about the submarine ship because those are people who made a choice to do something stupid. While these 6 workers were people who were just trying to make an honest living and feed their families and do the work that others did not want to do.
Yeah, and a bit more information about the ship that crashed into the bridge, since we didn't cover it too much in our rapid fire. Yeah. So the ship Dali is a Singaporean vessel. It's a very large ship. Now it's not the largest container ship around.
It really works hard. Or works fast.
But this one was 984 feet long. This is a huge vessel. Like the Empire State Building. It's got like a little side by side comparison to it. It's like almost 1,500 feet. This thing is almost 1,000 feet. Like this is a huge boat. People are saying that it's
Cargo
like
ship.
conspiracy ship. Fine.
Cargo ship.
Before the boat people come after me.
Yes, all the boat people that watch us, because boat people are definitely leftists.
Okay.
Our producer just raised his hand because he's a boat person, and he's like,
Boat bro.
boat bro with his boat shoes.
But yes, that is our show for you guys this morning. We hope that you guys have an excellent rest of your day, and that you tune in next week and on Friday for our 5-Minute Friday segment. I'm Hunter.
And I'm Dani.
Peace out.